Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's been some time again. How's everyone? Just real quick, this is an impromptu live stream again because I just wanted to update you all. Again, not any official return. Apologies in advance. But I feel that it's interesting. I was recently informed of some things in the social media scene. Can you hear me? I'm not using my special microphone because that's at work right now. Can anyone hear me? Okay, that's good. So impromptu stream, not an official announcement of return or anything, not probably ever going to happen. It's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, I only came by to remind you all that some things are happening right now that are essentially validations of many of the predictions that I made several months ago. Also, at the same time, of things that are going to plan or as planned. So, if you haven't noticed, in the last few days or so, or maybe a week or more, from what I can tell, a number of things have been occurring in the Dawah scene that I believe soundly predicted quite a long time ago. That prior to the end of all this nonsense that's been going on, the particular individuals in question would start eating each other. And that's exactly what's occurring as we speak. Some of the reasons why are also relevant to things that I predicted before as well, and have to do with a lot of the information that is being released gradually but slowly. Now, this might not feel relevant to you, or you may not be interested in exactly what's going on. However, I can assure you that you all need to be aware of these things, because in the coming months, it's going to get worse. And you will need to be prepared to pick up the pieces, as it were. Okay? Now, I will not take any part in this. I'm just going to watch as it falls to pieces. But yes, I would basically, I'm essentially asking you all to be prepared for this, because it's happening a lot sooner than I expected, actually. Now, it hasn't reached a critical point yet, but it's getting there. It's gradually moving in that direction. So, well, they're not exactly invalid labels, because let's look at the logic, everyone. Now, I was actually very disappointed in Mohammed Hijab for coming into his defense, because I felt that was quite stupid. And the reason why is because, how do I put this? Let me ask you all a question. What is one of the primary evidences that this other side, the people who are fighting now, that they use in order to claim that other people are liberals? What is one of the primary evidences? Does anyone know? I'll let you answer. If not, then I'll answer. not philosophy. Good, Abdullah. Associations. Associations. Who they work with, who they're next to, who they sit with, who they apparently promote, things like this, right? That's the primary evidence, correct? Abdullah got it very quickly. Now, let me ask you a question. If somebody that you're promoting on your own website is a Khariji, is known for having opinions that are from the Khawarij, you call this person a sheikh, right? You allow them to write articles for you. You speak highly of them. Why is the same logic not being used against you? So the evidence is there. The proof is in the pudding based on that own person's arguments, right? So, something to consider. Now, another thing that we can say, though, is that even if we don't take that argument seriously, right, and the whole association thing, because it is a little bit weak in some respects, you have to admit, not necessarily all associations lead to somebody agreeing with those things. And I think the person in question that I'm talking about would even agree with that for themselves, only because it's convenient. But even taking that away, it's really remarkable that this particular individual would knowingly associate with somebody and other people who actively support groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda killing our brothers and sisters, right? It's one thing to say, let's be frank, it's one thing to associate with, say, a gay person for a goal that has nothing to do with gayness or LGBTQ, like say, like, you know, protest Palestinian rights or something, right? It's another thing to actively promote people on your own website who support the killing of other Muslims and believe that most Muslim majority leaders are kuffar whose blood is halal. And then to complain when people call you out as a Khariji or associating with a Khawarij. I don't know. There is a difference there, I think, right? Just, I don't know. Right. But hey, what do I know, right? I'm not a logical person or anything. Anyways, aside from that, again, I find this all very fascinating. Oh, he did before. Thank you very much. I appreciate the sentiment. I have lost actually quite a bit of weight. I'm working out a lot more now, so alhamdulillah. So this is interesting. But yeah, I just thought that'd be interesting to bring up, you know, these double standards and sort of the chaos that's going around now, because it's gradually getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and it's, as you know, noted a couple of months ago, that was what's going to happen. So what's going to become of this? Well, my predictions, I think, will manifest themselves completely. And eventually there's going to be a massive blowback, unfortunately, right? And this blowback is going to be so significant that I truly believe that the current Dawa scene as it stands will lead to, unfortunately, a large amount of brothers and sisters apostating, or in the very least, losing faith in their identities, and even going so far as to further go into the grips of liberalism. because there is still a lot of stuff that hasn't been revealed yet, unfortunately. I wish they would have done it all at the same time, but it's not happening yet. They're slowly dripping information out. But there's a lot of reveals that are coming that is going to upset a lot of you. And I'm not going to say anything about what those specific things are because it's not my place. My place was only to find information and to make it accessible to people. But that information will be coming out in due time. Uh, but fun as it is, the long game is always better, right? Do something about what? I've already done my part a long time ago. All I know is what's going to happen to the best of my ability. And all I'm telling you now is that expect worse things to come. And my advice to all of you would be to bury yourselves into books, to learn from actual scholars and imams as all this stuff is going on, and to move away from all this stuff. Because I'm telling you right now, if you continue to be part of this scene, this environment, it's going to affect you negatively. It's going to hurt your iman. Okay. It's not just this scene, it's also social media in general, the way that it's transforming, the way that it's evolving right now, trying to move towards the metaverse, right? But this is all of this that's occurring right now. It's not only going to get worse, but a lot of the things that you think about some of these people are going to be turned on their heads as well. A lot of things are about to be revealed. There's a lot of different actors in these that want to hurt each other. A lot of these people, they're not just simply disagreeing with each other. They literally want to harm each other, like to the extent of destroying their lives. Okay, this is what's going to happen. Okay, there's no unity here. These people are all egos. There is no semblance of Islam in their motivations. Okay, even if they may be believers, it's all for the sake of one-upping each other because they can't survive otherwise. They need all of this. This is literally their entire identity is imprisoned in this medium. I'm not on anyone's side. I'm hoping for all of them to fail. So at this point, it all needs to be destroyed. So but when you have a cancer, sometimes you have to cut the entire arm off, right? That's just the way it has to be. Oh, please. It's funny. I saw somebody send me a tweet like, "Oh, these people are gaining so much pop. They're becoming more popular." And it's like, no, not really. All the so-called compassionate moms still have like millions of more views and followers than they do. So this is the only reason I came on here was because I was so fascinated by the fact that things are turning out the way they are as quickly as they are. Because I was expecting to take a little longer than this, but I just think it was fascinating. So I thought I'd come on here and be like, "Hey, see, I was right," and it's going to keep getting worse. The Islamophobia scene is not technically dead. It's become irrelevant in politics for the most part, of course, until there's another war. But yeah, I guess you could say it is dead in any terms of any meaningful impact. But they still have some followers and stuff, but they're really annoying. But yeah, generally speaking, the whole movement online is basically nothing. Just like the ex-Muslim movement is done as well, right? Well, of course, these people are still going to be making money. Like, for example, Robert Spencer, I'm still sure makes money. David Wood still makes money. A lot of fringe people still make money off of their bases, right? But when it comes to influence, that's a different story, right? I mean, these people are irrelevant in terms of how the world functions, correct? Right. It's in the same way a lot of the Muslim duat here on YouTube are irrelevant to how the world functions, because the purpose of being here is no longer about Islam. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, you can say that as harsh as you want, but it's very clear when you look at the behavior of a lot of individuals and the lack of concern for facts, even when those facts disagree with them. It's very clear that dawah is no longer the purpose. Islam is no longer the purpose behind the actual messages. Right. I mean, this is right. And that's why it's eventually going to crumble, because that's not the purpose behind dawah here online anymore. Not to say that old duat necessarily were trying, but the mainstream, I guess you could say, the big ones, this is pretty much what's going on. Andrew Tate becoming Muslim. So whoever becomes Muslim, to me, I think is a good thing. My major problem with Tate before his Islam becoming Muslim, was not him moving towards Islam. Like, I was very happy when he became Muslim. I think that's going to better his life and make him a better person. In fact, I just saw a video recently of him trying to give dawah to a person, and of course he's still a little vulgar and stuff, but I think that eventually, I'm hoping, I mean, it seemed like he was sincere, right? So I'm hoping he'll get better, because when I reverted to Islam, I wasn't a good person either, as far as I was concerned. So I had to gradually move in a certain direction as well. So I mean, I understand. That said, my biggest problem with the whole Tate phenomena, people mentioning Andrew Tate, has nothing to do with his Islam. It has everything to do with the fact that the reason they were attracted to him was for his non-Islamic viewpoints and his non-Islamic behavior. That is the reason I was upset with people attaching themselves to Andrew Tate. Had nothing to do with the fact that, if he said good things about Islam or not. It's because back before he became Muslim, it felt like he was using Islam as a means, as a joke, as a means to be an edgelord, a cringy, edgelord, somebody to get attention. And he said a lot of negative things about women, especially he had no respect for women, or even what it means to be a good Muslim, right? And now it seems like he's changed, right? Which is good, alhamdulillah. But before this, there were a lot of brothers who were attaching themselves to his personality before he became a Muslim, because they were attracted to his kufr behavior and his kufr ideas. And they were trying to frame that as Islamic. That was my problem. Okay. And that still remains my problem, right? In any regard. Well, in any case, I mean, nobody fully tells lies. Even a shaitan can tell the truth. That's sometimes correct. But that doesn't mean that we take from them. And it's not, contrary to what some people on this medium say, the traditional scholars did not negate a message of an individual on the basis of whether or not they were a deviant. It depended on exactly what they were talking about. So, for example, if somebody was good at fiqh, right, but they weren't good at hadith, or they weren't good at, or for example, if their aqidah was messed up, they may not take their viewpoints on matters of aqidah, but in matters of hadith or matters of fiqh, they may very well do so. And in fact, we have in our tradition many cases of this. We have in our tradition many scholars who disagree with each other's aqidah or even consider each other deviants, but they would still take knowledge from them in other aspects, right? And in fact, we have famous tafsir that were even written by Mu'tazila, and scholars used it because it was valid information. Now, what scholars did not do, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand, and why I was so hung up on this understanding this view of integrity, right? This whole aspect of integrity. Scholars would refuse to take knowledge, any information from anyone who was a known liar, slanderer, somebody who libeled people. They would not take anything from them at all, even if their aqidah was correct, even if they weren't a deviant per se, right? That is the method of the scholars in the traditional class. That is the method of Quran and Sunnah. Right? Today, it's the opposite. Today, we refuse to take knowledge from anyone, from in regards to anything, even if it's history, even if it's like on hadith or fiqh or whatever. If if they don't agree with my particular stance on aqidah, right? Then, or if we consider them a deviant, then we don't take anything from them, right? They can't. We cancel them. But if the person's a liar, a slanderer, a libeler, right? Hell, if they're a mass murdering psychopath, they'll be like, well, at least he's on the right path. We can take anything from him. He's fine. Right? That's basically the mentality today. One of the reasons I had a problem with, I actually enjoyed Sajid's recent video. I thought it was well done. Because somebody sent it to me and it's like, oh, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, that's interesting. I actually watched it. It was actually very coherent. And but what was remarkable about that was like, so now you're disassociating yourself because of so-called lies, right? And all this stuff that you don't agree with, these certain views. But before, when people were pointing out the bad behavior, you didn't have a problem with that. You were like, oh, take the good and leave the bad, And then you want to say you're upon the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that you're on the path of the traditional scholars, when they would have done that before you. They would have censored that person immediately, regardless, of his aqidah or not. But no, you're okay with somebody who lies and slanders, as long as it's not against you. But now it's against you and your friends. Now you have a problem. Now that he's calling you madkhalis and he's claiming that you're bootlickers and agents, now you have a problem. But you didn't have a problem when he was calling people falsely compassionate imams and liberals and things like this. You didn't have a problem with that. But you have a problem now that he's going after you with the same methods. It was okay then, but not now. Okay. Now, this is what happens when you turn your back on the tradition. This is what happens. So you eventually get bit, right? You can't hear anything? I'm sorry. So I find this all very fascinating. And I pray that you're all doing well. But the best thing to occur right now is for this to be destroyed. Because it's gotten to a point where a lot of bad actors have essentially taken the platform over to such an extent that it can only heal once they've been removed. So this is what we need to hope for. I know it sounds terrible, but sometimes you have to bulldoze the building down in order to build something better, right? And I'm not going to do that, but we're going to let it happen, okay? So, undoubtedly, Hawk centered that there are some discrepancies. My issue was the fact that the double standard was not being seen there. And number two, also that the lack of ethics is being displayed even further amongst these individuals because they refuse to acknowledge that all of these associations they had in the past were all based on convenience. The same things that they condemn other people for, right? Um, it's going to keep getting worse. You're going to see more divisions in the next few months, probably. So all the people who are still allied with some of these people are going to start fighting amongst themselves, right? You're going to see a lot more things happening because these people can only thrive in their current climate by attacking people. And they'll keep switching targets until they become satiated. And then once they are hungry again, they'll find more targets. And eventually, the only people that will be left will be them themselves. Right? Because as we discussed about this before in many lessons, right, is that those whose ideology, those whose lifestyle, those whose perspective is based on what they hate and not what they love, if everything is what they're doing is not to build but to destroy, what happens? What is the ultimate end of that movement? Right. It's to destroy itself. Right. This is historically the case across the board. If your only solution is to be anti something, then eventually you will dwindle and fail. Because even if you succeed over your enemies, you will turn the enemy into yourself. Right. Yes, I mean, even like the Tap brothers are eventually going to have to come out and say something more, um, or they're going to have to leave completely. I've already, what is the word? Advised Tap brothers and other Duat to leave because stuff is about to happen. I don't know how they took it. I think they took it seriously, right? But I think that they understand. And I think that they will make the right decision when it comes time. But look at what happened. Let's look over the last 2 years, 3 years, right? This was the group. Now it's this. Now it's this. Now it's this. Right? Every couple of months, it keeps getting smaller and smaller. Right? Ask yourself a question. Right? Is this really a sign of one who is upon the truth? It's not about the rulers attacking you. It's not about a specific the elitist class attacking you. No, I mean, even among all of the students of knowledge, among different backgrounds, are disassociating from you. There's an issue. Okay. And it's not because you're on the haq and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought you revelation. Okay. Stuff like that. Right. But I find this fascinating. The proof is in the pudding. The evidence continues to build. And the more information is revealed, the more disunity will occur. And it's not by anyone's hands but their own. Right. So I don't have to do anything. I just have to watch. And so do you. So again, my advice is don't get involved. Stay out of it. Leave these mediums as soon as you can. Find more benefit in reading, attaching yourselves to scholars of worth, people who have actual sincerity towards the deen, even if they have flaws. People who do not feel the need to hurt others to compensate for their own inadequacies. Right? Attach yourselves to those sort of people. Attach yourselves to those who want to teach. Right? So, and if you're going to do dawah, don't do it on here right now because this is not what it's about. And I'm going to address a comment in here because for some strange reason I've noticed that there's this misinterpretation about things. Um, so I happen to recall, I think of my final video here. Um, um, my final video in here where I said that I was leaving the Dawa scene on YouTube, and it was assumed that I'm leaving Dawa because even though in the same video I said I was doing Dawa in person, so apparently there's this perception among very ignorant people, especially in the chat, that think that Dawa is YouTube, um, which also shows how much they need to touch grass and kind of like wake up from their own delusions. Um, so sorry kids, but you need to grow up. Okay, walk outside. Yeah, this is not everything. Noah made a good joke, right? So Abdullah hasn't fully left, right? So um, Abdullah has backed away. He's doing a lot of stuff uh, outside as well, just like me. We're working, we have families, we have jobs. We don't need to beg for donations on YouTube in order to pay our bills. So, we're trying to be responsible males who have families. Um, Actually, I read a book about the metaverse recently. I did a presentation on it. Abdullah is a lot more nuanced. I don't think he should be labeled that at all, but he also has views that I don't agree with, even though I respect him because I think he has a lot of integrity. But yeah, we don't agree on everything either. Oh, you're reading that book that I recommended, The Librarians of Timbuktu? It's very good. Hello, Assalamu alaikum, Mukit. How are you? Stay away from crypto, not because of any fiqh, but because it's a unstable currency. I mean, we can go into the fiqh of it. I don't really want to, but generally speaking, it's just not stable and it's not good. However, it may reach a point at one point where it will become the primary currency, but not as of yet. We have to wait for the foundational elements of that to take place, which is the metaverse itself, which has not even manifested yet to full extent. Well, response given. Hopefully, there'll be better men to replace them after that. And besides that, hopefully, they'll start to actually find actual resources to clear their doubts, scholars and people with knowledge and who advertise their classes all the time, who do have videos as well, who do sometimes they do it for free. Like for example, I teach classes um, to kids. I don't get paid for it. You know what I mean? I teach critical thinking. Right? Oh, I get it, Khalid. I get it very well. You just don't understand English very well, unfortunately. And that appears to be a level of incompetency that won't get better with age, apparently. But if you need a job taking out my trash, I can try to give you something. Probably won't help you to get married, though, all things considered. Now, that said, it does have some merit, but only within the foundation of it needs a proper structure. Right now, there is no proper structure. Right. I think it's too unstable right now, and it doesn't have enough popular support. Like, look at what happened to NFTs. NFTs are going down the toilet, right? No, Shoaib, you don't need to take out my trash. I respect you more than that. I want you to have some dignity. Um, Well, I mean, that's what the case is. That's why you all have to hold strong. Hold strong. I think gold and silver is the way to go for right now. I think that gold and silver has always been the best bet, and it's also in accordance with our tradition because it's physical current. It's physical, right? It's actually has actual value. You didn't spell ad hominem correct, Khaled, and I'm not a coward because I show my face. Well, you're older than me. Well, maybe physically, mentally, not so much, kiddo. Um, so I'm gonna keep calling you son. Um, oh, I don't think you're happily married. If you're on here bothering me, then and not with your wife, there's an issue, buddy. Now I am attractive, but you need to keep it to yourself. Um, okay, now Pokemon Gold and Silver. Um, Gold and Silver is good. So don't ban Khaled. Khaled is here for my entertainment. Okay. He thinks he's a man. I'm sure if someone bent him over and hit him like a pinata, he'd probably call him daddy. Wouldn't you, boy? The next Chaiwala has come on the scene. Khaled Chaiwala. Yes. I did play the first two Assassin's Creed. Yes, it was very good. I'm not really into them anymore because I feel like the formula has gone stale. But that's me. I am actually, after this stream, I'm going to go play Splatoon 3 because I am obsessed with Splatoon right now. I have put in 155 hours into Splatoon. Yes, so it's been crazy. I am Switch exclusive, as you can probably tell. Whoop, whoop, right there. Now, I work a lot, but I also don't sleep a lot, so that's my time to play. Oh, I heard Black Flag was very good. How do we respond to alt-right ideas that are found a lot in the community when their only response is we need to refute feminism and LGBT? It's the same reasoning. The way you point this out is very clear. It's the same reasoning that they use against liberalism, because they claim that liberals are only that, like liberal Muslims, for example, they are trying to do the whole the greater good and the greater evil argument, and that's not how you should be playing. You should be doing it based on Quran and Sunnah, right? Well, they're doing the same thing. They're saying, well, it's okay to accept red pill ideas because we're trying to fight the greater evil. Well, it's like, no, it's never okay to accept deviant opinions regardless. That's not how our religion works. You don't just go, oh, well, it's less deviant, so it's okay because we have to fight this, But no, that's not how it works. I think that okay, look, bottom line is this: regardless of what happens or not, first off, you leaving this area and this influence of this medium will benefit you tremendously, spiritually, intellectually, of everything, right? Okay. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't any good things that have occurred on this medium, right? There have been people who have made some proper refutations and educated people, but this should only be a beginning place for you, somewhere that kind of piques your interest. Like, for example, whenever I did my whenever like I did my refutations, what did I do in my refutation? Did I want people to really follow the refutation, or did I want people to follow the references that I quoted in there? Right. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Like my whole purpose behind making these things was to get you guys to read and to research on your own. It wasn't because I wanted you to come to my videos as the primary source of your knowledge. I didn't care about that. My job was simply to disseminate what was out there. Right. for you to understand and for you to discover for yourself. That was the point. So this can be a good starting point, but it should never be where you end or where you what you need to continue moving forward, right? Um, so what I'm trying to tell you guys is that there's more out there. This is nothing. A lot of the things that the duat don't do on here, they're simply introducing things to you, right? Sometimes very badly. Okay, in the case of what's going on right now. But generally speaking, this should not be your place of learning. This should not be your place of instruction. Okay, unless you're learning how to fix something in your car, or in your house, this should not be your primary medium of instruction. Or maybe you're learning programming or something, right? This is not it. This is not where you learn your Islam. Okay. Now, of course, there are legitimate teachers on this medium who do give classes, and that's a different category. Okay, if like they're giving actually like a class on fiqh online, then fine, that's a different story because that's actual instruction. But generally speaking, the duat on here they don't do that. They're not giving you knowledge. They're not. They're just not. Okay. For the most part. Um, they're kind of like they're pointing to current events and they're going, hey, uh, see, this proves my point about how liberalism is taking over the world, and now we need to all be scared. Send me money. That's basically that. Yeah, that's it. That's about it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. So when you look at this as a medium, like say if like let's say you have an institute, right? Like Sapiens, and you're doing your lectures and stuff like that, and you use this as a way to put your videos online, that's a different story, right? But if this is your primary means of communication, this is your, and you're just constantly talking about current events, you're trying to just interview people. I'm sorry, that's just not a thing. That's not dawah. That's just, what is that? A talk show? I mean, I'm sorry if that sounds like I'm disparaging, but the bottom line is that we're not really. This is not how the scholars would do things. Um, Even if this technology existed back then, I'm sorry, this just wouldn't happen that way. And in fact, one of the primary traits of many of the scholars of the past that even many people in the chat are angry at me. The people in the chat who hate me, right? Which I think is funny for some reason. I don't know why. Um, uh, Even the scholars that they follow in the past, the people they mention all the time, people that we both respect, like Ibn Taymiyyah and stuff, they consider not being famous to be a quality, right? Many of the great scholars of the past try to disassociate themselves from the general public in terms of not disassociate, but I mean try to remove themselves from the public scene, right? They didn't like being known to that extent. They didn't market themselves. They wrote books, they taught, and then they went home, right? They didn't want people to bother them. Okay, um, you know, and that's the main quality of a lot of the shuyukh of the past and a lot of duat of the past, right? Even Ahmed Didat was not the type of person who would be like, yeah, I'm going to advertise myself, right? Right. But nowadays it's like, it's all marketing, right? It's all who can get on the latest trend, who can get the interviews, um, who can get out the refutation the fastest, right? Who can take advantage of the algorithm quicker, right? It's toxic. It's meaningless. It's ultimately detrimental, right? So it's funny, I don't know. It's just, I took that same line of reasoning, Shoaib, at one point, that if I don't market myself, then how's my message going to get out? But then I realized that if I have to market myself to get my message out, then there's something wrong with what I'm doing. And what I mean to say is there's something wrong with how I'm going about it. Because if, and there's also something wrong with the culture, because if I have to find a way to get likes and views, then there's something wrong with the ummah also, in that they're not searching for knowledge, number one. Number two, there's something wrong with me because I am literally putting myself in a position where I have to build my ego in order to build my message, right? And that is a recipe for failure spiritually. So when I decided to leave, for me, that was empowering. That was a form of strength. I mean, I still to this day consider it a form of strength, even if I may be tempted at times to come in and say some things like right now. But like, I'm not monetizing. I don't care about views. Like, none of this matters to me anymore. And I feel stronger as a result because I don't care. Right. The fact that I don't have to rely on this anymore, and that I'm content with even teaching one person or affecting one person is sufficient for me, because it's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala how that message is carried, right? It's not up to the algorithm. It's not up to me and how I manipulate the technology, right? And there is a problem in the ummah today where learning is not considered to be a good thing. We may say that we respect knowledge and learning, but the reality is we don't. Many of us don't. I mean, we want things that are quick and fast. We want to watch 10-minute videos. We want to yeah, sure. I mean, just ask Program Ferris. He can ask me to get permissions to it, and I can give it to him. Just go on my website. But and the point is, I'm trying to say is that, yeah, well, that's the only way you can reach. That's the point, Matt. Is that the only way you can reach people is if you do the clickbait stuff, because that is what that's a problem with the culture as well. Because we have so many Muslims now, and that's where I was going, that they don't really respect knowledge or learning. That's a huge problem. That's a cultural issue that cannot be resolved through YouTube. In fact, it's only exacerbated by YouTube. Right? It's made worse. That's what I've been trying to fight. Like, information literacy is completely lacking. I mean, I was sent a message by a couple of brothers about a month ago about this. And they messaged me saying, yeah, when we found out, the youth, one of the youth's biggest problem is that they don't understand information literacy. They don't care about knowledge. They don't care about learning. It's like, yeah, YouTube is not going to solve that. Making your video shorter is not going to solve that. It's going to make it worse. We need to cultivate a culture of learning and knowledge within our communities first before even doing this stuff. Because right now, the clickbait, the algorithms, all of this stuff is actually making us dumber, less practicing. I mean, you can have some brothers and sisters saying, oh, well, my iman was boosted. Alhamdulillah, it was boosted. But if this is what's keeping you going, I'm going to tell you right now, it's a warning sign. You need to leave. Because if this is keeping you going at the rate, the speed that this is depreciating, that this is becoming destructive, your iman will also go like this. Do you understand what I'm saying? This place is toxic. It's a drug. It's going to destroy you. I'm telling you with all sincerity and love in my heart, you need to leave as soon as you possibly can and break away from it. Because the moment it continues to put its grips into you, the moment it has you, and the metaverse is manifested in full form, where you have to get a headset, you have to be in virtual reality, you will not be able to escape. It is affected. Very much so. There's also a problem in places like Pakistan and Bangladesh that has been revealed as of recent, well, a couple of years now, but more recently, I think they did a study on this where there has been a problem. And I want to be very clear. I'm clarifying here that I'm not talking about all people from Pakistan, all people from Bangladesh. But for some reason within the subcontinent, and I think even some places in the Arab world, there is a lack of regard for integrity in terms of academic standards. So they found that, for example, they found that in Pakistan, for instance, probably I think it was like over 50 or 60% of all theses that were viewed, that were actually investigated, were actually all plagiarized. That you have like a bunch of doctors and PhDs out there who didn't actually earn their degree, and they didn't care. Um, you know, I mean, it's like, okay. So a lot of unqualified people who literally just basically cheated their way through school. People teaching in universities who just literally cheated their way through school. Right. This is the standards, and it was among the majority. Like, this is not, this is bad. And some people may be laughing about it, being like, well, who cares? It's just a piece of paper. Right. No, you should care, because if you have to lie to get what you want, that means you don't care about integrity or honor or dignity. Right. Yep. But there's also corruption in the government too. Right. That's the problem as well. Right. Yeah. Mookie, exactly. No, I'm not coming back. Just, there is no Dawa scene anymore. It doesn't exist. uh, uh, you have to get permissions through WordPress, yes, because I don't need to. Well, I mean, I don't even know what the point of having. I mean, only a few people want to read it anyway, right? I mean, I, it was out there publicly for how long? For a year or more? All these, so all these people were like, I remember before it was released, people were like, why isn't there a response? There wasn't like a serious academic response. And then I released a serious academic response, and all the people calling for a serious academic response were complaining about me making the serious academic response. Like, why did you write that? And they were saying it was too long, or, and I was like, okay. Well, so, and now it's funny because since I brought it down, the other side are all claiming that there has never been a serious response, that it's only about his tone. And I was like, maybe because you never wanted to read the actual response. Anyways, um, so when you have to deal with people like that, it's like, what's the point? So I'd rather just have it private, and if you want to read it, if people want to read it, they'll request access, and then they can read it. And if they want to copy it, they can copy it. I don't mind. They can take it and download it, whatever. So that's fine. So I'm going to go up to them. Sure, just request access to my website, and if I see it on my email, I'll give it to you. Apologies if I don't check in time. It's been, I don't really check my email that much, my personal email that much anymore. I'm so busy at work now that I just check my work email constantly. Like when I come to work now, I kid you not, I got like 20 emails every day. It's annoying. The backbone ribs is not on Yakin. It's fine. I give permission for you to, as long as you credit me as the author, I don't care. I don't know response given, but we know, even if we can find the actual reasons as to why this behavior is manifesting, we still need to correct it and be responsible for it, right? In the sense of what we do, right? Like, I'm not saying we be responsible for other Muslims, but what I'm saying is that Muslims need to be responsible for their own behavior. You know what I mean? Like, we can blame the West all day long, but the Quran is very clear that unless we change our condition, we will not, our condition, unless we do something with ourselves, our condition will change, right? So we can point the fingers all day. We can try to analyze and say, oh, secular oppression and this and that. Sure, fine. Let's get into that. We can do that. If you want to get into the academic exercise, if we want to understand the origins of this behavior, fine. Okay, it's what we know it's not Islamic, right? But the solution has to be from us. We can't simply point to that and say, okay, they need to fix it, right? No, no, we need to fix it, right? So that's why I don't like pointing the stuff out anymore, unless I have to. Like, if somebody says, "Oh, see, Islam is like this because they lack integrity," no, then I'll go into the origins of why they act like that, right? But for the solution, I won't do that because that's not the solution, right? Yes, I'm still planning to write something. I'm just spending most of my time right now working, taking care of the little one, playing video games. That's it. My life is very happy. Um, we have lost our honor, we've lost our dignity, we've lost our self-respect, and um, now we are. There are many, not here in the chat, but there are many Muslims online who are looking for false pride. They're looking for false pride in things like refutations and these little videos and clickbait. They feel like, oh, I'm a proud Muslim now because you made fun of some kafir or some liberal. It's like, okay, well, how does that change the Muslim world though? How is that pride that you have somehow obtained made you a better person, a better Muslim? I mean, if you're walking around acting like a bad person, if you're still behaving in a bad way and you're not benefiting the ummah in any respect, or even your own family or yourself, then what was the point of that pride? What sort of pride is that, right? Um, yeah, it's also funny, Mukit. It's like, well, don't go to major universities and don't invest in these things, and they're not important. Going to an Ivy League school is important, but we just want to remind you that we went to Ivy League schools and we did very well. Yeah, I find that fascinating. Isabella's doing well, alhamdulillah. Um, I didn't learn anything at Harvard, but I went to Harvard. Um, anyways, Grandson of Galaga, I still have the channel. I still want to do something with it. I just haven't had any time. I'm working towards a promotion right now, so I'm just killing myself at work. Best study method for finals is not to procrastinate. Number two, break it up into sessions no longer than 2 hours each. And don't study all the way through the night, or you're going to get stressed and tired and you won't be able to do well. What do you think about having anxiety and depression from reading verses of the Quran that relate to torment, hell, and all its wrath? Try to balance it out. I am still a librarian. Yes. I haven't gone to a martial arts tournament in a while, unfortunately, because I've been busy, but I'm intending to go back eventually. I believe that if knowledge can be obtained, one should try to obtain it to the best of their ability in the best circumstances that they can. And if that includes going to a very good school, then they should be able to. And I think that once Islam is not lost in university, once Islam is lost at home, and that if one does not have a good family life, if one does not have a good center of knowledge in which to learn, then of course they will lose their deen because they're already on that path before they even got to the university to begin with. And I have seen many people who are kuffar become Muslim at these universities. And I've also seen many Muslims who are liberals become better Muslims at these universities. So I do not buy that argument that somehow you will lose your deen if you somehow go to a secular school. What I do see those Muslims become more liberal are those who already started that way, or already had influences in that regard, or already had a very bad foundation to begin with. Those are the individuals who are susceptible to having those problems. But in my experience, having gone to numerous universities, not simply one school, where, by the way, there probably weren't many Muslims to begin with, because, for example, Harvard, I don't think has that many, to be frank, or Rutgers for that matter. But I actually went to a private Catholic university for my undergraduate that had about a 15 to 20% Muslim population, and I went to a number of other universities that had very large MSAs, and I can tell you from personal experience that that narrative doesn't make any sense. I don't, maybe in the subcontinents and maybe in Arab countries it does, because no offense, a lot of places in those areas already are very much infatuated with white Western lifestyles. And I think university is just a place for them to manifest it. I mean, here's the thing. It's like, I think it's funny. It's like, oh, if our women go to schools, secular schools in our countries, they'll become liberal. Well, there probably already were liberals, because I'm pretty sure they weren't staying at home before that reading Quran all day. I'm pretty sure they were watching all those Bollywood and, all that nonsense on TV and YouTube all day before they even went to school and decided to take off their hijab, So relax, bro. The problem is you don't want to blame the actual issues, the actual problems. You want to point the finger somewhere else, right? Oh, we have a spammer, sexfine.biz. New adult dating chat for free. Do you hear that, everyone? It's free. If you want to date adults. Okay, well, that's good. We appreciate the freeness, but unfortunately we won't not indulge. We're all very much chads here. We have what we need. Okay, so please, maybe if you advertise that in Daniel's chats, you'll probably get most of his followers, but not here. Not here. We're good. Okay, so anyways, but what do you mean by balance it out? So what I mean by balance is in terms of read also hopeful message in the Quran, because there's a lot in the Quran that's more hopeful than it is about punishment, right? There's a lot of beautiful messages in the Quran. Right? I see myself forgiving those who ask for forgiveness. Yes. I feel like if I were to give forgiveness, that, of course, we should always strive to be merciful, but at the same time, the individual in question will not seek forgiveness, and if given forgiveness, will only feel justified in their behavior further. So I think that it would be tactless and it would be not beneficial to either party if forgiveness was given without actual repentance. So that's my name. My name, Jeff. Why am I back? I'm sorry, Jeff, to disappoint you, but I thought you wanted to see me one last time. You missed me, so I think Tate becoming Muslim is a good thing, because anyone becoming Muslim is a good thing. Alhamdulillah. No, I believe it's for all Muslims, that mercy, but I feel like particular individuals will not accept that as mercy. They will see that as a means to continue abusing other people. Right? It has happened several times in the Haq Center. The Nasiha has been given on numerous occasions, right? No, I'm putting the channel back down after this. UIA, IUM is one of the best universities there, probably the best Islamic university there. So I would go there. Unless you want to study directly under Al Atas's students, I would go to UTM. Then UTM has a very good Islamic thought and ethics program. Um, I don't think AT's conversion is a PR nightmare. I think the PR nightmare started before that. I think Tate becoming Muslim is good for himself. I don't know if it's good for anyone else. I can't make that determination, but I think it's good for him. I think it'll make him a better person, inshallah. Of course, if he's following proper guidance. But I think it was a PR nightmare before when Muslims were advancing him and respecting and dignifying him more than their fellow Muslim brothers and sisters, despite the fact that he had more problems than they do. And I think that they were advancing certain behaviors and ideas that he had that were not Islamic. And that's a problem. So, alhamdulillah, he became Muslim. As for the PR, that was our fault in general, the Muslims' fault in general, because there were so many Muslims who were advancing him, promoting him, despite the fact that he was promoting kufr and haram behavior, right? Exactly, Hadi. That's fine if they love the Civil War, Mookie. And that's the thing. So that's a punishment that we deserve, honestly. If they're sitting here benefiting from this, it's because it's our own fault. Again, Muslims have always been our own worst enemies. Through historically speaking, right? It's never been the kuffar. It's never been, other people. It's always been us. We've always been our worst enemies. I mean, we're the reason that our own civilization fell. You know, Baghdad didn't fall because of the Mongols. It fell because we were so disunited. We allowed the Mongols to conquer Baghdad, right? Um, so, I mean, the Ottoman Empire didn't fall because of the Kuffar. The Ottoman Empire fell because we allowed it to fall, right? How do I deal with Muslims who have been liberalized? Well, first off, I treat them as Muslims because that's the one thing that they're most insecure about is people not seeing them as Muslim. Because believe it or not, even though liberal Muslims themselves, not all liberal Muslims are the same, by the way. Some are just liberal because they don't understand. Some are liberal because they've been traumatized. Some are more outspokenly liberal. Some are trying to be reformist. There are different types. But generally speaking, when I speak to liberals, people who have been liberalized in some respect, I treat them as Muslims. I call them brothers and sisters. I try to be kind and generous with them because I'm trying to teach. I'm trying to think the best that they can come back, right? And that's for any sane Muslim, unless of course that person is very much like arrogant and doesn't even want to be advised, right? But if it's somebody who wants to listen and learn, I will treat them with respect and dignity, right? As much as I can, right? So that has been the most effective method in bringing them back towards Islam. But if you're going to spend all your time making memes, I'm not saying you, I'm saying other people. If you're going to spend all your time making memes and insulting people you don't like or you don't agree with, you're just going to keep pushing them away, right? Um, uh, there's also a lot of Muslim youth going to liberals who have legitimate mental issues and emotional problems. The amount of students and also just kids, youth that I've had to counsel who had legitimate mental and emotional problems, family issues that go beyond what many of you may even have ever experienced yourselves, alhamdulillah, is remarkable. It is so remarkably depressing. It's sad. Okay, let me read some of these. I'm sorry. I'm not returning to YouTube. I'm going to leave actually in a minute. I agree we need to hire more counselors. Why do Quranic verses about guidance and mercy always specific to pious Muslims of Allah? It's not always specific to pious Muslims, so it's specific to everyone, to all people who want to find guidance and truth. Jazakallah khair, sister. I appreciate that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you always as well. We live in exciting times. Yeah, exciting. Bleh. Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I guess. The staff label only label is a joke. It's literally just there because I want it there. I just felt like having one. Like, okay. When your faith is weak, well, I speak from experience because we all have times when our faith fluctuates, right? Anyone who behaves like they're always on the top is lying to themselves and to other people. The first thing I can say is that you're not the only one. The second thing I could say is the best thing you can do right now is, if you're struggling, is to find good Muslim brothers and sisters who may be stronger than you at the moment and congregate with them and just hang out with them. I'm not going to tell you to read a religious text. I'm not going to tell you to pray this many times or make this many dua. I'm not going to do that. Find some good brothers to hang out with. That's what I would do. And I promise you it'll get better. I don't think self-tips to becoming a husband. Getting married in general, don't expect perfection. You're going to mess up a lot. Things are not going to go your way. Let's see, it's all negative, right? Build your love and respect for the person. Don't expect it immediately. And yeah, show mercy to your wife, and you will be given mercy, hopefully. If you're well together, and let's see what else. The best way to learn about the other person, to love them, is to travel with them. That's another thing I would say. I'm not selling my Nintendo collection until I'm ready, and that means when I'm done playing everything. Yes, I've offered my perspective to him, and I guess he seemed to respond to me positively, and then I don't know what happened. Maybe he's still going in that path. Maybe he's doing a long route. I don't know. Masculinity. I don't understand the whole thing about making content on masculinity, to be honest with you. I don't buy this whole argument that, so you hear this a lot, and I don't understand what it actually means, because it doesn't make sense to me. Oh, so because there's nobody teaching these brothers how to be masculine, therefore that's why they're going down this other path. And it's like, no, their cultures are teaching them how to be masculine. It's just that they don't like the fact that there are people who disagree with that masculinity. So they seek people out who justify their masculine behavior. That's what's really going on. Because the masculinity in their families and in their subculture within their society is what's telling them to treat women a certain way or to behave in a certain way. Right? That's what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing people. It's not like these brothers are living in fatherless homes where they don't see their dads all the time, or they don't see other brothers out there and and they don't see how being masculine is. No, they're learning a masculinity. It's just the masculinity they're learning is not true Islamic masculinity. And they've assumed it is, and once they've been challenged by it, when they see scholars and other women saying, "Hey, that's not right," um, suddenly they become insecure about their masculinity, and then they seek these other people out who are like, "Oh, hey, yeah, you're a Chad, bruh," even though you are scrawny as hell and don't have proper hygiene and don't know how to talk to women. You don't know how to treat anyone right, and you have no dignity or self-respect, but you're a Chad. You're a Chad because you know how to say Chad. Now say it together, Chad. Now let's look at the picture of this Chad. We don't look like anything like this guy, but that's what you are, right? That's basically the whole thing in a nutshell. Oh, you mean that type of masculinity? If they're preaching against red pill, that's a good thing. But if I'm talking about like these alpha types, right? So if they're doing like him, like they're going against red pill, but they're trying to teach like actual fatwa, like actual nobility in contradiction to these things and to these cultural sentiments as well, then alhamdulillah for that. They're correcting something. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to bless them. However, that's not the majority, unfortunately. The samurai are an interesting concept, yes. So, but brothers and sisters, if you need to know what a man is, there are physical aspects of what makes a man, obviously, right? But what primarily makes a man has nothing to do with their authority, has nothing to do with their control over others, and has nothing to do with necessarily how they appear. Okay, these are all like the appearance aspect. There is some importance to it, but it's mainly about how you behave as a person, right? Dignity, respect, honor, nobility in general. And even in the physical requirements, it's not being big, it's not being strong, it's being able to fight, it's being able to defend others, it's being healthy for your family, right? It's not looking a certain way. You see what I'm saying? There's more to it than the image that they give you. These things they're selling. Um, that's a funny thing with Matt Walsh's documentary. What is a woman? I'd like to ask him what a man is, because when I look at Matt Walsh, I don't see a man. Um, Resilient, self-control, yes. Nobility is about being selfless. It's about seeking benefit in others. It's about rising to the cause of justice, being in defense of the weak. Shoaib, okay, if the girl is not attracted to me, okay, if everything ticks off, but she says she's not attracted to the man's eyes, the advice I would give him is to leave and to find somebody else, because if she is not willing to marry because of somebody's eyes, she has a problem. Um, and that's going to be a very toxic relationship, even if you get married. Essentially, a Hawk Center, that would be a good summary, yes. Um, because imagine if you did that to her, if you said, well, you tick off all the right boxes, but oh, he doesn't find her attractive. Oh, I see. Okay, well, that's I would say similarly, he should leave. And here's what I'm trying to say that, and here's why I'm trying to say that. Um, I'm not trying to be superficial. I know that's how it's going to sound, okay? But if she ticks off all the right boxes and he cannot compel himself to accept her as she is, beauty wise, it's going to cause a fitting in his heart and it's going to cause problems for her and the family. Because if he forces himself to be content in the sense of like, oh, I'm going to just do this because, this is she ticks off all the right boxes, I'm not attracted to her at all, but she ticks off all the right boxes. Um, but if he is so like to the point where like he can't even look at her eyes, then there's something wrong in the sense of first off, I think there's something wrong with him, to be honest. If it's just her eyes, I'm not attracted to her eyes. There's something superficial about that needs to be corrected with him. He shouldn't be marrying her to begin with, because he's not prepared to marry her or to marry anyone for that matter. No offense intended. I'm just telling you. And at the same time, even if she may be great for him in a religious sense, he's going to always be struggling trying to find attraction in her. It's going to cause a fitting. So only because I think there shouldn't be any conflict, I don't think you should be prepared. You should try to marry her. That's what I would say. So it's not like, oh, well, she's not pretty enough, bruh, so don't marry her. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's going to cause problems, right? So he needs to resolve that first. He needs to resolve that feeling before even thinking about marriage, right? Yeah, I mean, there has to be a level of attraction there for it to be some harmony, right? At the same time, though, it has to be based on some sort of rational kind of standard. So what I'm trying to say is like, don't be like, how do I put it this way? Like, okay, the guy has to realize that the moment that she gets pregnant, has children, she's going to change the way she looks, right? And if he's not prepared to accept that, then he's not prepared to get married. That's a problem. Oh, so you meant to say that she's not attractive in his eyes. I'm sorry, Shoaib. I've been misreading that several times now. Okay, thank you. So I'm trying to be balanced here. I don't want to say at the same time that the guy is justified, but at the same time, I want to say that, in not finding attraction to that person, right? Because you should be looking at other qualities, right, before that. But I am saying that it does play an important role in terms of harmony because, as many women say this all the time too. I hear this all the time. They say, well, it doesn't matter if he doesn't look great. It's like, well, yeah, it kind of does. You do want your husband to look decent, right? I mean, don't sit there and talk like you don't. Okay, you do. All right, just stop. It's okay. It's not doesn't make you a shameful person for wanting your husband to be attractive. Okay, you have to like the way they look, right? It's okay. That's why in our tradition they said, reveal the woman's face, and if you like what you see, you marry, right? But you should always consider those other options first. But it's okay if you want to reject somebody because you're not attracted to them. Okay, just but what I'm trying to tell you is that if your entire standards of what constitutes attractive are based on superficial things, that's a problem with you. So, for example, oh, if it's just the quality of her ears, wallahi, I've heard this before. I'm not even joking. Okay, I had a close family member on my wife's side, right, who was rejected because the mother, well, the kid, well, she said that the son, whatever, did not like her ears. Um, okay, uh, fine, I guess. But I was thinking to myself, like, if that's your biggest concern, bro, you're gonna have a hard life. Because let me tell you something: when a woman gets pregnant, her ears are not the things that change. So have a good life. If the girls are not good character, man, you're gonna have a hard time. But the thing is, too, I would never. It's hard to explain. I don't want to get into it. Um, Um, Here's the thing though, bro. Like, what does it mean to have bad character too? Because everyone has flaws. And there's also a thing that we need to understand is like anyone you meet is not perfect, but you have to find certain qualities of like, okay, let's say the sister's not praying all the time. Maybe the sister's struggling. Okay. But if the sister is sincere, if she legitimately is trying, if she's actually trying to do something with her dean before even meeting you and she's struggling, right? Or let's say that she's not fully practicing, but she's an honest person. You know, she has good character in other respects, right? That's something you can work with. Right? So we have to, when we look at, say, bad character, we also have to judge ourselves. Like, are we doing everything too? Are there qualities that this person has that can complement me? Are there qualities about this person, right, that 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 I could learn from? Is this person like, do they have integrity? Are they honorable? Right? Um, are there certain aspects like because I've seen a lot of sisters, for example, who don't wear hijab, but in many respects they have more haya in some aspects of their life, more so than some hijabis that you see, and vice versa. Okay, it happens. My point is that you're going to find people who are not perfect, even in their practice of religion. Find people who at least have sincerity to change, and there are good aspects about them that you can get along with, and that you can raise a family with, right? That's what I would think about. So let's look at it more traditional sense, right? Uh, well, it depends on the effeminate traits. Um, Exactly, Hawk Center. So even if like a sister is struggling, but at least she's like, oh yes, I do understand this is what I need to be doing. I'm struggling. If she's honest about it, then that's something you can work with. That's a quality. Because I mean, there's so many people you can meet. And when I was looking for a wife, and I know some brothers too, there are people who the parents especially, they'll force their daughters out there full hijab, maybe all niqab, and they'll be like, tell them you pray 5 times a day and that you do tahajjud every day, and that um, you've done Hajj like 50 times in your life and things like this. And it's like, that's not who they are, right? Do you see what I'm saying? Um, so you have to be careful. Look at people's hearts. Look at not you can't see in their hearts, but see how they present themselves in their sincerity and their honesty, and how and what they and who they are as people too. Don't just look at, okay, do you do X, Y, Z, right? Um, yes, you are kind of marrying the family in respects. Let's look. I'm trying to see what else is here before I leave. Oh, I'm already over time. Thank you, Hamid. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, everyone else in here has said the same thing, and that's why I kind of came on video, because I want to be like, hey guys, guess what's happening? So I'm here to kind of give advice and warn everyone about the next steps of what's to come. This is the beginning of the end. So you don't have to have the same hobbies. You just have to vibe with the person. Like the person has to like your company and vice versa. Like you're never gonna have. I mean, personally, I wouldn't marry somebody who has the same hobbies exactly to the T, because that would be weird for me, because I like my alone time. Like I don't want to play video games with my wife. No offense. Like I want to play video games by myself. Leave me alone. Okay. Um, Alhamdulillah, Shoaib. That sounds like a good woman. I mean, but it sounds like that brother, if he's describing her in the fashion, has some sort of like attraction to the woman, because he thinks these are all great qualities that he would like to be around. But I mean, physically attractive, if he can't find any physical attraction, then maybe that girl's not for him. There are other women out there. It's okay. And the woman doesn't have to be as good as that sister. We don't know everything about that sister, by the way. She could have some flaws that he's not aware of, that may not be totally bad, but he may not be able to tolerate, right? So it's okay if he's not attracted. Maybe that's just a sign that he needs to find somebody else. It's okay. It's okay. Just it's nothing to get frustrated with. She's not the only person. You know what I mean? Um, I missed you all too. Forcing their kids, yeah, they have a responsibility to but the thing is, when you talk about force, like, what do you mean? Like, oh yeah, you better do this now or I'm going to punish you. No, that's wrong. Um, yeah, I think that to the best of their abilities, parents should influence their children to wear it naturally, and then enforce it when they understand that that's what they have to do, in the same way they do everything else. But I don't like any parenting style, regardless of what it's about, whether it's about hijab or eating or you know going to bed at a certain time. I don't like a parenting style that's all about punishment. Okay, that's not how it should be. The slipper does not work. It may work in certain cultures. I'm not saying dismissing that, but not in my understanding. I mean, like, I wouldn't settle if this is the person, if for this person, this brother you're talking about, Shoaib, I wouldn't settle if he can't get over that, because it's going to cause a problem. He's always going to think about it. He's going to feel guilty, and she's going to pick up on it too, because you have to understand something. There are a lot of people who have this impression that women are naive. They're not. They can sense emotion very easily, right? Like, men are more analytically minded, but women emotionally, even though their emotions are more sensitive, they tend to get more sensitive, or they can be more intense at times. But they can sense, like a Jedi. They can sense your emotions from a mile away. Like, they know when you don't like them. That's why they ask you questions to interrogate you. It's not like they don't already know. They're just trying to get you to admit it. That's Women are very good at that. So you can't sit there and think that, oh, um I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to hide my lack of attraction. Like, that's not going to happen. She's going to find out. Like, even if you don't say anything. um oh, why does someone have effeminate traits? um okay, so first off, we have to define what effeminate traits are, right? So, for example, like, people define femininity differently in different perspectives. So we have to define it from the Islamic perspective, okay? And that is mainly like behaving as a woman, obviously. But what does it mean to behave as a woman, right? So there are certain normative features that many women have, but not all of those features are necessarily exclusive to women. So we have to be careful about that. So, for example, in the West, wearing eyeliner is considered very feminine, right? But in the Arab world, wearing eyeliner is something that men do because it's normal. Well, they use kohl, but it's the same thing. So we can't count that as feminine. Um, in some cultures, using your hands a lot, like I do, is considered feminine. But in Spain and other European countries, this is very normal for men to do. Okay, so it's not really feminine, right? So what do we mean by femininity? Right? Is it wearing women's clothes? Okay, sure. Yeah, obviously. Is it showing off certain features of your body that are not normal for men to do? Certainly, right? Is it wearing types of jewelry? Certainly, right? Although there are disagreements regarding earrings sometimes, right? I mean, because there have been Muslims in the past who wore earrings, not like full blown, but there's some who did. Um, Pirates, for example, wore earrings. Um, yeah, some of that. See that, and I'm saying this as a cultural prejudice, right? Sometimes I see Muslims holding hands, men holding hands, and that bothers me from a biased Western perspective, because in my understanding from the West, if two men holding hands, that means they're homosexual. Now, I don't jump to that conclusion anymore because I've seen it happen so many times in the East. So I no longer try to think that way, but it still feels weird to me and it looks effeminate. But it's a cultural thing. That's, for me, that's a cultural bias. So I don't derive that conclusion anymore, right? So we have to try to demarcate here between cultural biases and standards, versus what is actually effeminate from the Islamic perspective. Because there are a lot of men out there who may give the appearance of being effeminate per se from your cultural understanding, but they're not really effeminate, right? Does that make sense? Yeah, I don't see men holding hands as effeminate, even though culturally speaking, I was taught to think that way, right? But I don't see that anymore. Mhm. So what does it mean, right? That we have to come down to that first. Um, I think that being effeminate probably would include things like I'm going to be frank, and I want to be, and I'm saying this not as an insult necessarily to people who have this, but for example, I think that obesity can be an effeminate feature of men if taken too far, right? Because why? Men are supposed to be built for what? For fighting, taking care, defending other people. Another effeminate trait could be gossiping, right? Namima, constantly attacking other people. Not people who defend against people who attack, but the people who do the attack, right? People who disparage our sisters. That's also the feature of a dayuth, is not simply somebody who lacks jealousy over their sisters, but somebody who disparages our sisters constantly. Right? Cooking is not effeminate. Most men are the best cooks. Right? Attracting dominant, stronger women and wanting to be submissive to them in a relationship. Well, you can't be submissive to them in a relationship. Um, if you want to think about that sexually, then that's your own thing. I'm not talking about you, but that I guess that's okay as long as that's only done in the bed. But if you are a man, you have to take a dominant role in terms of your role in the family unit. But if you want to talk about sexually, that's your own business. You want to do that, that's your own thing. If you want to wear a fursuit, do your thing. I don't care. I'm just joking. But you know what I mean, right? Sexually, that's your own business. Okay. But when it comes to actually taking a certain role in the relationship, you have to take that role. Okay. Otherwise, that's your own thing. Yes, it's mostly characteristics. I'm not going to go that far, Hawk Center. It may lead to problems, but there are certain people who have certain kinks, and as long as they're not against Islam, that's their business. I'm not going to go into that. How would you give advice to a stubborn woman who are overly emotional? By not telling them that they're stubborn and overly emotional, number one. Number two, by recognizing the hadith that say that a woman is like a rib. If you bend her too much, she'll break. So again, do not oppose the emotions. Try to take advantage of the emotional aspect of that, of her, and realize that she is an emotional being. She has more intense emotional feelings, and that she is also has a greater emotional intuition, and try to appeal to that. Don't try to appeal to the analytical side, even though many women are very analytical. But generally speaking, that's how you should appeal to them. Try to be merciful and kind and respectful. Don't allow them to take advantage, but try to appeal to that sort of language in their hearts, right? Um, yeah, that's what I meant, Hawk Center. I don't want to get too descriptive. Okay. Yes, you should upgrade to an OLED because it's amazing. There might be a Pro next year, but I'd still like the OLED. I agree with you, Shrib. So it's not about even your physique. I mean, one can be strong and still have a small physique. I mean, Bruce Lee, for example, right? But if you are physically capable of taking care of people and defending honor, right? You don't have to have a six pack. You just got to be healthy, right? An unhealthy, a very bad trait that some Muslims have is that they think being obese is okay. That is not okay. Unless you have a medical condition, that is not okay. If you are literally eating your health away and you are, incapable of taking care of yourself or defend. Look, I say this a lot to a lot of these people who come to say, "Oh, men's job is to maintain and protect women." Bro, if you can't even maintain and protect yourself, you have no right to speak like that. You can't maintain and protect anyone else. If you can't maintain and protect yourself, you're not maintaining and protecting anyone else. I don't care how much money you have. You're not doing your job. Okay, take care of yourself. Um, those aren't read books; they're video games because I like video games. May Allah bless you as well, livers. Thank you. Gay Muslims. There is such a thing. Okay, so I always say this because people need to understand there's a difference between being gay and acting on homosexual desires, right? It's the same reason that somebody is heterosexual and acts on their heterosexual desires, right? Gay is simply a term that is used, or homosexual is used as a term to indicate somebody's sexual attraction. Okay, who they're attracted to, the type of person they're attracted to. Okay, that's all it is. So if somebody is gay and they're Muslim, all it means is that they're attracted to men or they're attracted to the same sex. That's all it means. It doesn't necessitate that they're having sex with those people. In the same way that calling yourself a heterosexual doesn't mean that you're going around committing zina with other women, right? Right? Okay. That's the point I'm trying to make. So yes, there can be gay Muslims. In fact, there are gay Muslims. In fact, I met a couple of gay Muslims in Malaysia. They're very effeminate. They try not to be, but that's how they are. And they have admitted openly that they have attractions, but they do not engage. Right? That's how it is. Okay. So yes, there are gay Muslims, and we have to recognize their existence. There are people who have these tendencies to believe this way, to think this way, to have these feelings. We have to recognize them and be compassionate and loving towards them. That's it. They're just like anyone else. They're like any other Muslim. If they commit a sin, they're like any other Muslim who commits a sin. That's how we have to treat them. We have to stop acting like them being gay is a sin in and of itself, number one. And number two, we have to make sure that we do not criminalize their sin more than we criminalize the sins of others. Time and again that I've said this, I'm not saying anyone in the chat, but I've seen other Muslims say that if a gay Muslim commits sodomy, it's like they get more angry about that than if a heterosexual Muslim commits zina in general. Like, oh, like that's a bigger deal. It's like they've both committed zina. Right? Like the fact that they committed a different type of zina doesn't mean that it's not zina, or that zina is somehow more acceptable or okay to tolerate. No, they both committed zina. Just stop treating them differently. Majority of Muslims were critical of Tate. Perhaps, yes, but not in this sphere, I believe. No, my iman is fine. And if it doesn't happen the way that I think it's going to happen, then that's up to Allah. Okay, but so far it is happening the way it's happening. So no, I think that accepting the fact that that's how you are and then trying to reconcile that and trying to live out your faith properly is more healthy than simply quote unquote suppressing the identity. I think that you just accepting who you are and then saying, okay, this is how I'm going to live my life in accordance with Islam, is better than saying, that's not who I really am. I'm going to force myself to be a heterosexual. It's like that'll cause more problems. It's also a lie, because that's lying to yourself. Um, I didn't even watch that, to be honest. I didn't watch half of the things you guys are talking about. I mean, also to further my point before, it's like whatever happens on the scene has nothing to do with me anymore. I'm talking to all of you because you're all my friends and students, and I'm happy to talk with you about this stuff. We're just chatting like we're at a cafe, even though we're not at a cafe. I wish we were at a cafe because I'd like a coffee right now. I'll probably make some coffee later. I'm going to stay up all night. But if this is all this is, I mean, if whatever happens on here, whether it's the way I want it to go or not, it doesn't affect my life. I mean, like, I'm still going to be going to work tomorrow. I'm still going to raise my daughter. I'm still going to be playing my Nintendo Switch. It's not like that's all going to change all of a sudden. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but would you be happy if the YouTube didn't deconstruct and salvage itself? If it salvaged itself, yes, but only on the basis that it did in the right way, that it went towards integrity. It started realizing things were going wrong and trying to fix itself, right? The only reason that I want it to kind of eat itself right now is because I feel like that's the only way to correct everything, is if they all just destroy each other. That's then finally we'll have some more sincere people. Like maybe the Tap brothers. I would pray that would be ideal. Like if the Tap brothers or Abdullah al-Andalusi and others sort of rose to prominence and started to teach proper manhaj methodology and started to be, more prominent in terms of their message. That those are the type of people that I would like to see come onto the scene and actually take over. They deserve, with their sincerity and their willingness to teach and to lead by example, those people are the ones who deserve to have the influential roles, not others, right? You can ask for my permission to view the site, and I'll give it to you. I think that one should not fat shame per se, unless that person is shaming other people. That's what I would say. Shame those who shame, but do not shame the one who struggles. That is the general rule. Whether it's fat shaming or other type of shaming, don't shame unless the other person is shaming. Shame only to shame those who shame, but do not shame those who do not want to be shamed or shaming others, right? There we go. I am baby faced, yes. That's why I still look good for my age. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue making me baby faced for a very long time. Tintin, come on, man. Midterms, God. These are all very complex things. It's already almost 2 hours. I have to leave now. I have to play video games. I enjoy talking to you all, though. Philosophy should be used. In order to combat philosophy, you have to use philosophy. So it's inevitable. That said, I would not use it as a means to, I would not use it as a foundation of what you believe. Like the Quran and Sunnah should be our foundation, but if you're going to use it, it should conform to that. That's how it should be used. Unfortunately, there has been a lot of philosophy that's been utilized that has not conformed to that. In fact, a lot of postmodernist philosophy. A lot of you don't really realize what postmodernism is or what it teaches or what certain postmodernist thinkers thought. But a lot of the current critiques that are being utilized against liberalism, for example, come from a very postmodernist lens. And they're actually very detrimental. So I am going to take the channel down again after this is done. No more feuding with people. I don't even know. They're not my mods anymore. Somebody else controls Turkestan. I like the Usuli. I think he's a very sincere brother and teacher, and I learned from him quite a bit. I'm going to disappear again because that is what Batman does. That's all I have to say. You do not, first off, for all of you here, even though I really appreciate your sentiments and I love you all for the sake of Allah, you don't need me. You don't need me. You never did. You all have the sincerity, the integrity in your hearts to move yourselves forward, to learn and to study and to research. If you've learned anything from here, then I'm done. You don't need me anymore. I'm done. You can discard me. It's fine. You all have the potential to change things and to better yourselves. You don't need anything from me. We are only friends now. We're peers in this journey. There's nothing from me you need anymore. So I pray for all of you, and I ask you all to make dua for me, because I'm sure many of you here are much better than myself. And I ask you all then to take everything that you've learned and you've developed and to use it for the benefit of yourselves and your own societies. That's what I ask. So I pray you're all well, and I pray you continue to be well. And Jazakallah khair for listening to me rant again, as I usually do. Thank you for being here for the humor. I apologize for the trolls, although we did have some fun with them. That was interesting. I don't know where they come from, by the way. It's like, why do they just show up randomly? It's weird. It's just so odd. I always try, I want to do a study one day on why they come to random streams. Because, like, in my mind, if I had free time, the first thing that I would do is go play my Switch. And I don't understand who finds it entertaining to go into a stream just to listen to me destroy their lives. Like, I don't understand where they get. I mean, sadomasochist? I don't know. It's weird. But, okay. It's funny. May Allah bless you as well. Inshallah, we'll see each other one day again. If not here, then hopefully down the road, while I'm walking towards the sunset, we can meet and discuss matters of great importance, and maybe football. And then after that, we can get some tea. In the next life, definitely. Inshallah. But I was hoping before that we can get some tea, because I'm not really ready to die yet. Hoping that will kind of be a far away, thing. I got stuff to do. So, inshallah. All right. Allah bless you all. I have to leave. صباح الخير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.